This is a story that seems simple, but hides a secret that few can discover. A humble employee, a devastating accusation, and a truth that changed everything. Can you find the hidden keyword in this story? Comment your answer, subscribe to the channel, and get ready for more stories full of mysteries. The Tech Vision office, in the heart of Seattle, was buzzing that Tuesday morning. The 20th floor of the mirrored tower offered an impressive view of the city, but no one paid attention to that. There was too much work, too much pressure, too much ambition. Among the modern desks and bright screens, Sofia Martinez walked with her coffee tray, distributing drinks throughout the departments. She had worked in the administrative sector for 3 years. Her uniform was simple: white shirt, black pants, worn but clean shoes. Her salary was modest, but she never complained. She needed that job. She had an 8-year-old daughter to raise alone. Sofia was invisible. At least that's how most people saw her. Just another support employee among executives, engineers, and managers. She delivered documents, organized meeting rooms, served coffee during important presentations, and she did everything in silence, with a discreet smile and eyes that seemed to carry stories no one asked about. That morning, there was a special excitement in the air. The company would receive important investors. A decisive meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. in the main hall. All the executives were nervous, adjusting ties, reviewing presentations, checking numbers. Sofia prepared the room carefully. She placed fresh water in the pitchers, organized the chairs, tested the projector. She always did everything with attention to detail, even though no one noticed. For her, doing things well wasn't about recognition. It was about self-respect. At 9:45, the investors began to arrive. Men and women in expensive suits, watches that cost more than Sofia's annual salary, conversations about markets and opportunities. Sofia served coffee and water, always discreet, always polite. But there was someone different in that room, a grey-haired gentleman, dressed simply compared to the others. He didn't talk much, just observed. His eyes were kind, but attentive. Sofia noticed that he thanked her with a sincere nod when she served his coffee. A rare gesture in that environment. The meeting began. Sofia withdrew to the hallway, waiting in case they needed anything. The murmur of voices and presentations leaked through the half-open door. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed under control. But Sofia didn't know that in a few minutes her life would be turned upside down. The clock showed 10:30 when the meeting room door opened violently. A tall man in a perfectly tailored navy blue suit rushed out. Marcus Thornton, Vice President of Development. His face was red with anger. He looked around the hallway until his eyes found Sofia, who was organizing documents at a side table. "You!" he shouted, pointing his finger in her direction. Sofia looked up, startled. Everyone in the hallway stopped. The silence was immediate and suffocating. Marcus walked toward her with firm steps, each footstep echoing like thunder. "I know what you did," he said, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "And you're going to give it back to me now, in front of everyone." Sofia felt her heart race. She had no idea what he was talking about, and the storm was just beginning. Marcus Thornton stopped a few inches from Sofia. His imposing presence seemed to swallow all the space around. The hallway, previously busy, was now frozen. Employees stopped mid-stride, some holding folders, others with coffee cups suspended in the air. "My watch," Marcus said, his voice grave and accusatory. "The Patek Philippe my father gave me. It's worth over $80,000, and you know exactly where it is." Sofia blinked, confused. She shook her head slightly. "Mr. Thornton, I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me," he shouted, making her take a step back. "Last night during the company party, you were there serving drinks. I left my watch on the table for a few minutes. When I came back, it was gone, and you were the only person who passed by that table." People began to approach. Some came from the finance department, others left meeting rooms. A circle began to form around Sofia and Marcus. She felt dozens of eyes on her, judging, speculating, condemning. "Sir, I swear I didn't take anything," Sophia said, her voice trembling slightly but firm. "I was just doing my job." Marcus laughed, but it was a cruel laugh, without humor. "Of course, just doing your job. But you saw an opportunity, didn't you? A person like you, with your salary, must have thought a watch like that would solve many problems." The words fell like stones. Sophia felt her face heat up, not from shame, but from indignation. "A person like you." The words echoed in her mind. She knew exactly what he meant. Jennifer Park, the HR manager, approached quickly, her face showing concern and discomfort. "Marcus, maybe we should resolve this in private," she began. "No," Marcus interrupted. "This needs to be resolved now, here, in front of everyone. I won't allow a thief to continue working at this company." Sophia felt tears forming, but she didn't let them fall. She raised her chin and looked directly into Marcus's eyes. "I'm not a thief, Mr. Thornton, and you have no right to call me that without proof." Marcus took a step forward, his voice lowering to a dangerously calm tone. "Proof? You want proof? Then open your bag. Now, in front of everyone." The hallway became even quieter, if that was possible. Even the hum of the air conditioning seemed to have stopped. Sophia looked around. She saw familiar faces, colleagues she had worked with for years. Some looked away. Others watched her with morbid curiosity, as if expecting a show. She took a deep breath and grabbed her old shoulder bag of worn synthetic leather. Sophia opened the bag slowly, her hands trembling slightly. Not from fear of the accusation, she knew she was innocent, but from the public humiliation she was suffering. Marcus extended his hand, impatient. "Give me that. I'll check it myself." "No," said a firm voice. It was Jennifer Park. "If we're going to do this, it will be done properly. Sophia, please empty the contents of your bag on this table." Sophia nodded, grateful for the small dignity Jennifer was trying to preserve. She turned the bag over the side table in the hallway. Out fell a simple fabric wallet, some loose coins, an almost finished lipstick, tissues, a small notebook with a worn blue cover, and a laminated photo of a smiling girl. Marcus rummaged through the items impatiently, picking up the wallet and opening it without asking permission. Inside were $27 in crumpled bills, a bus card, the company ID photo, and Sophia's driver's license. He threw the wallet back on the table with disdain. "Where's the rest?" he demanded. "Rest?" Sophia asked, confused. "Your lockers, your desk, you hid it somewhere." "Marcus, this is going too far," Jennifer intervened. "You can't just search an employee's personal belongings without following proper protocol." "Protocol?" Marcus turned to her, his voice rising. "We're talking about $80,000. Do you think I'm going to wait for protocol while she has time to get rid of the evidence?" A murmur ran through the crowd. Some people were shaking their heads, others whispering among themselves. Sophia could feel the judgment, the suspicion growing like a wave around her. Thomas Wu, a young data analyst who sometimes talked to Sophia during lunch, stepped forward timidly. "Mr. Thornton, with all due respect, Sophia is one of the most honest people I know. She once found $50 on the cafeteria floor and spent days looking for the owner." "Nobody asked for your opinion, Wu," Marcus cut off, his withering look making Thomas retreat. Sophia looked at Thomas and gave him a small, grateful smile. At least someone still believed in her. Marcus turned to Jennifer again. "Call security. I'm going to search her locker, her desk, and if necessary, I'll call the police to do a complete search." "That won't be necessary," said a calm but firm voice from the back of the hallway. Everyone turned. It was the grey-haired gentleman who had been in the meeting. He was walking slowly toward the group, his hands in his pockets, his face serene but serious. Marcus frowned. "Excuse me, but this is none of your business. This is an internal company matter." The man stopped beside Sophia, looking directly at Marcus. "I think it is my business, Marcus, especially when I see an injustice being committed." "And who do you think you are to interfere?" Marcus replied, his arrogance intact. The man gave a slight smile. "Someone who knows the truth about your watch." The hallway erupted in whispers. Marcus looked at the gray-haired man with barely disguised irritation. "And who the hell are you? One of the investors?" he asked with a condescending tone. The man didn't respond immediately. He looked around at all the faces fixed on him, then back at Marcus. "My name is William Chen, and no, I'm not an investor. I'm one of the founders of TechVision." The hallway fell into absolute silence. Some people gasped. Jennifer Park's eyes widened. Even Marcus seemed to lose some color from his face. William Chen had retired 5 years earlier after selling his stake in the company. He rarely appeared at the office, and when he did, it was usually discreetly without fanfare. Many of the younger employees didn't even know who he was. "Mr. Chen," Jennifer quickly regained her composure, "it's an honor to have you here. We didn't know you would be visiting today." "I like to come from time to time, observe how things are going," William replied calmly. "And last night, I was present at the company party, as a discreet guest." Marcus cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. "With all due respect, Mr. Chen, this doesn't change the fact that my watch was stolen, and all the evidence points to this employee." "Evidence?" William repeated, his voice carrying a touch of irony. "What evidence, Marcus? The fact that Sophia was doing her job? The fact that she's a support employee, and therefore, in your view, automatically suspicious?" Marcus pressed his lips together. "She passed by the table where my watch was." "And 20 other people did too," William replied. "I was watching. I saw executives, managers, other employees, all circulating freely. But you chose to accuse exactly whom? The person who earns the least, who has the least power, who can't defend herself easily." A visible discomfort took over some of those present. People began to look away, realizing the truth in those words. Sophia remained silent, but her eyes began to shine, not with tears of sadness, but with something stronger. Recognition. Someone was finally seeing the injustice. "Mr. Chen," Marcus tried to argue, "I understand your concern for justice, but the fact is that my watch disappeared last night, and I need to recover it." "You will recover it," William said simply. "But first, let me ask you a question. Do you remember how much you drank last night?" Marcus blinked, surprised by the question. A few drinks. What does that have to do with it?" "Do you remember stumbling on the chair around 10 p.m.? William continued, his tone still calm but relentless. "Do you remember spilling your glass, laughing loudly, needing help finding your coat?" Marcus's face began to turn red again, but this time it wasn't from anger. "I was celebrating. It was a social night." "You were drunk," William corrected without judgment, just stating a fact. "And when you're in that state, Marcus, you tend to be careless, very careless." William put his hand in his jacket pocket and slowly pulled out something. A shiny golden object with a brown leather strap. The Patek Philippe watch. The hallway exploded in shocked whispers. Marcus was speechless. How did you?" "It was Sophia who gave it to me," William said, holding the watch in the air for everyone to see. "Last night, after you left stumbling, your watch fell on the floor. Sophia found it and, instead of leaving it there or taking it for herself, she came to me, the only person who seemed sober and responsible, and asked me to keep the watch until someone came looking for it." Absolute silence. You could hear a pin drop. William Chen held the watch in the air for a few more seconds, letting everyone see clearly. Then, calmly, he extended it toward Marcus. "Here's your watch, Marcus. Intact, safe, exactly as Sophia ensured it would be." Marcus took the watch with trembling hands. He examined it, as if he couldn't believe it was really there. His cheeks were red, but now it wasn't from anger. It was from shame. I don't understand," he murmured. "If she had the watch, why didn't she return it to me this morning?" William sighed, like a teacher disappointed with a brilliant student who missed the main point. "Because, Marcus, she didn't have the watch. She protected it. There's a difference. And she didn't return it to you this morning because you didn't approach her politely. You accused her, in front of everyone." Sophia remained standing, her hands now clasped in front of her body. She didn't look victorious or vindictive, just tired, as if this were just another battle in a long war she didn't choose to fight. William turned to her. "Sophia, can you explain what happened last night, in your own words?" Sophia looked around at all the faces now turned toward her, not with suspicion, but with curiosity, perhaps even with a touch of shame. She took a deep breath. "Last night, around 10:15 p.m., I was collecting glasses and plates from the outdoor area where the party was taking place. I saw the watch on the floor near one of the tables. There was no one around at that moment. I picked up the watch and started looking for who the owner might be." She paused, her voice becoming softer. "I knew it was an expensive watch, very expensive, and I thought, if it were mine, if I lost something so valuable, I would want someone to take care of it until I realized I had lost it." Some in the hallway lowered their heads. The simplicity and honesty of her words was almost painful to hear, especially after the brutal accusation she had just suffered. "I saw Mr. Chen sitting at a nearby table. He was the only one who seemed trustworthy," she continued. "I didn't know many people at the party, but he had treated me with respect earlier when I served coffee. So I approached him, explained the situation, and asked him to keep the watch until someone came looking for it." William nodded, confirming the story. "I suggested she take the watch to HR first thing in the morning, but she said she didn't want to ride the bus with something so expensive, afraid that something might happen. So I offered to keep it and said I would come to the office today, as I was planning to do anyway." Marcus looked increasingly smaller. The watch weighed in his hand like an accusation. "Sophia," he began, his voice hoarse, I thought... You thought that because I'm just an administrative employee, because I wear simple clothes, because I take the bus instead of driving an imported car, that I would be capable of stealing," she said, her voice firm, but without anger. "You didn't think to ask me. You didn't think to check the facts. You simply assumed the worst about me." The silence in the hallway was deafening. Jennifer Park looked uncomfortable, knowing that as HR, she should have intervened earlier, more forcefully. Thomas Wu, the young analyst who had defended Sophia, stepped forward again. "Sophia deserves an apology, a public apology." Some in the hallway murmured in agreement. Marcus looked around, seeing the faces of colleagues, employees, people he worked with every day, all waiting, all watching. He had a choice to make. Marcus Thornton was a man who built his career on confidence, quick decisions, and an image of unquestionable leadership. He was respected for his work, feared for his intensity, and admired for his results. But in that hallway, before dozens of witnesses, he was just a man who had made a terrible mistake. He put the watch in his pocket slowly, as if the weight of the object had tripled. Then, for the first time since the situation began, he really looked at Sophia, not as a suspect, not as a subordinate, but as a person. And what he saw in her eyes wasn't anger. It was something deeper. It was disappointment. The disappointment of someone who expected more from humanity and was reminded, once again, that we don't always get what we expect. "Sophia," he began, his voice lower now, devoid of the previous arrogance. "I made a mistake." She didn't respond, just waited. "I accused you without proof. I publicly humiliated you. I let my anger and frustration over losing something valuable cloud my judgment. And I projected that onto you, simply because it was easier to assume the worst about someone I didn't know." He took a deep breath. "I apologize. From the bottom of my heart, I apologize." Sophia nodded slowly. It wasn't complete forgiveness. It wasn't total absolution. It was acknowledgement, an acknowledgement that he had recognized his failure. William Chen, who had been watching everything in silence, finally spoke again. "Marcus, you're a talented executive, but talent without character is a fragile foundation. This company was built on values, respect, integrity, justice, values that today you forgot." Marcus lowered his head, accepting the words. William continued, now addressing everyone in the hallway. "This situation teaches us something important. We often judge people by appearances, by positions, by salaries. We assume that those in lower positions have less integrity. We assume that wealth equals character and that poverty equals dishonesty. But the truth, as all of you just saw, is the opposite. He placed a gentle hand on Sophia's shoulder. This woman, whom many of you see every day but rarely acknowledge, demonstrated more integrity in a single act than many demonstrate in an entire career. She could have kept the watch, could have sold it, could have simply left it on the floor, but she chose to do what was right, without expecting recognition, without expecting reward. Sophia finally felt tears form in her eyes. Not from sadness, but from relief, from being seen, from being valued. She demonstrated dignity, William concluded, his voice echoing in the silent hallway. And dignity, my friends, cannot be bought, cannot be faked, and cannot be taken away. It comes from within. Jennifer Park approached Sophia, her face showing genuine concern. Sophia, on behalf of the company, I also apologize. You were exposed to an unacceptable situation. If there's anything we can do... Sophia shook her head gently. I just want to go back to my work, Mrs. Park. I just want to continue doing what I've always done. William smiled, a sad but proud smile. And it's exactly that attitude, Sophia, that makes you who you are. The crowd in the hallway began to disperse slowly. Some stopped to shake Sophia's hand, to murmur apologies, to offer words of support. Thomas Wu gave her a quick hug, whispering, "You're amazing." Marcus remained standing, watching everything. The watch in his pocket had never felt so heavy. The hours following that incident in the hallway were strange for Sophia. She returned to her desk, trying to resume her normal activities, but everything had changed. People who barely looked at her before now stopped to talk. Some offered coffee, others asked if she was okay. It was uncomfortable. Sophia didn't want to be treated as a victim or as a hero. She just wanted to be treated as a human being, as she always should have been. Around 3 p.m., Jennifer Park appeared at her desk. "Sophia, can we talk in private?" They went to a small meeting room. Jennifer closed the door and sighed deeply before sitting down. "Sophia, I need to tell you something. What happened today was unacceptable. Not just Marcus's accusation, but the way we allowed the situation to escalate that way. As an HR representative, I should have intervened earlier, more firmly." Sophia listened in silence. "We want to make this right," Jennifer continued. "We're offering compensation for the embarrassment you suffered. We also want to make sure you have the necessary support, including counseling, if you wish." "I don't want money," Sophia said calmly. "That's not why I did what I did last night, and that's not why I'm here." Jennifer nodded, clearly expecting that response. "I know, but Sophia, you deserve more than just an apology. You deserve recognition. Mr. Chen has already spoken with the board. They want to offer you a different position in the company, something that values not just your work, but your integrity." Sophia blinked, surprised. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to decide now," Jennifer smiled. "Think about it. But know that you have value here, real value." Meanwhile, in another room on the same floor, Marcus Thornton sat before William Chen and 2 members of the executive board. The meeting was not going well for him. "Marcus," said Patricia Lawson, the CEO, her voice cold and professional, "do you understand the gravity of what happened today?" "Yes," Marcus replied, his voice hoarse. "I understand. You publicly accused an employee of theft without any concrete evidence. You humiliated a co-worker based on, what exactly? Class prejudice, arrogance." Marcus had no answer for that. William Chen leaned forward. "Marcus, I know you're good at what you do, but today you crossed a line. You didn't just harm Sophia, you harmed this company's reputation. There were investors present during that party last night. There were business partners. And today, the story of what happened is already spreading," Patricia continued. "We're in a difficult position. On one hand, you're a valuable executive. On the other, you created a hostile environment and demonstrated a fundamental lack of judgment and character. This cannot be ignored." Marcus felt his stomach sink. He knew what was coming. "We're placing you on administrative leave for 2 weeks," Patricia announced. During that time, you'll undergo mandatory training on diversity, inclusion, and workplace ethics. You'll also participate in executive coaching sessions focused on empathetic leadership. She paused. And you'll make a formal written apology to Sophia, which will be included in your permanent file. Any other incident of this nature will result in immediate dismissal, regardless of your position or performance. Marcus nodded slowly, the weight of the situation finally falling on him completely. I understand, and I accept the consequences. William observed him for a long moment. Marcus, I hope you use this time to reflect deeply, not just about what you did, but about who you want to be. Professional success means little if you lose your humanity in the process. When Marcus left the room, the hallway was empty. Everyone had gone back to work, but he felt the stares, heard the whispers. The shame was palpable, heavy like a cloak on his shoulders. He passed by Sophia's desk on the way to his office. She was organizing some documents, focused on her work. He stopped. "Sophia," he said softly. She looked up. "I just wanted to say, again, I'm sorry, truly. There's no excuse for what I did." Sophia studied him for a moment. Then, surprisingly, she nodded. "Thank you for saying that, Mr. Thornton. I hope you learn from this." "I will," he promised. "I will." As he walked away, Sophia returned to her work. But something had changed in her too. She had learned that her voice mattered, that her integrity had power, that dignity wasn't something others could give or take away. It was something she always had, even when others couldn't see it. 3 weeks after the incident, TechVision held its monthly company-wide meeting. The auditorium was full. Engineers, managers, administrative staff, executives, everyone gathered to hear updates on projects, goals, and the company's direction. Patricia Lawson, the CEO, took the stage. But instead of starting with sales numbers or product launches, she began with something different. "I want to talk about values," she said, her voice echoing through the auditorium. "Recently, we had an incident in our office that made me reflect deeply on who we are as a company and who we want to be." The auditorium fell silent. Many knew what she was talking about. "I won't go into specific details, but I will say this. We discovered that it's easy to talk about respect, integrity, and inclusion. It's much harder to live them, especially when it challenges us to question our own assumptions and prejudices." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Today, I want to publicly acknowledge someone who taught us a valuable lesson. Sophia Martinez, can you come to the stage, please?" Sophia, who was sitting discreetly in the back rows, felt her heart race. She wasn't expecting this. Thomas Wu, sitting next to her, gave her an encouraging nudge. "Go," he whispered with a smile. Sophia slowly stood up and walked to the stage, her steps echoing in the silence. When she reached Patricia's side, hundreds of eyes were fixed on her. "Sophia has been with us for 3 years, Patricia continued. "She's part of our administrative team. Many of you see her every day, but how many really know her? How many stop to thank her for the coffee she serves, for the documents she organizes, for the invisible but essential work she does?" The auditorium remained silent, but it was a reflective silence. Recently, Sophia demonstrated something we should all aspire to: unwavering integrity. When faced with a situation where she could have taken advantage, she chose to do what was right. When unjustly accused, she maintained her dignity. And when everything was resolved, she didn't seek revenge or recognition. She just wanted to continue doing her job. Patricia turned to Sophia. "Sophia, on behalf of the entire company, I want to thank you, not just for what you did, but for who you are. And I want to announce that starting today, you're being promoted to the position of Organizational Culture Coordinator. Your job will be to ensure that the values you demonstrated so naturally are integrated into everything we do." The auditorium erupted in applause. Sophia stood motionless for a moment, processing what she had just heard. Tears finally escaped her eyes. Tears of relief, of validation, of hope. I don't know what to say," she said into the microphone, her voice trembling. I just did what I thought was right. Anyone should do the same. But not everyone does, Patricia replied gently, and that's exactly why you're special. On the other side of the auditorium, Marcus Thornton watched in silence. He had returned from his administrative leave the previous week. The last few weeks had been humiliating, painful, but necessary. He attended the training, the coaching sessions, spent hours reflecting on his actions and on who he had become. Seeing Sophia on stage, being recognized and valued, he felt something complex. It wasn't envy, it was respect, and perhaps a bit of sadness for how long it took him to see what had always been there. After the meeting, he approached her in the hallway. "Sophia, congratulations on the promotion. It's more than deserved." She turned, surprised to see him. "Thank you, Mr. Thornton." "Please call me Marcus," he said, "and I wanted to tell you, I really learned from all this. You taught me something no MBA course or business book could teach." "What was that?" she asked, genuinely curious. "That dignity is priceless. That character isn't measured by position or salary, and that the most important people in an organization are often those we notice least." Sophia smiled, a genuine and warm smile. "I'm glad you learned that, Marcus. Truly." That night, Sophia rode home on the bus, as she always did, but something was different. She wasn't just surviving another day. She was thriving. She had defended her dignity, maintained her integrity, and was now being recognized for it. When she got home, her 8-year-old daughter Emma ran to hug her. "Mum, how was your day?" Sophia picked her up, holding her tight. "It was a very good day, sweetheart. A day where I learned that it's always worth doing what's right, even when it's difficult." "You always do what's right, Mum," Emma said with the innocent simplicity of childhood. Sophia smiled, tears of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you, my love. I try. I'll always try. This story isn't just about a lost and found watch. It's about how we treat people. It's about the quick judgments we make based on appearances. It's about arrogance that blinds and humility that illuminates. It's about justice that isn't always immediate but always arrives. But above all, it's about dignity. The dignity of standing firm when unjustly accused. The dignity of doing what's right without expecting reward. The dignity of forgiving without forgetting. The dignity that cannot be bought, cannot be stolen, cannot be given or taken away by anyone. Dignity is something you carry within yourself, regardless of how much money you have, what position you hold, or where you are in the social hierarchy. It's the essence of what it means to be truly human. Now tell me, did you manage to discover what the key word of this story is? It was present from beginning to end, in every action of Sophia's, in every lesson learned, in every moment of truth. The word is dignity. Did you manage to discover the key word? Leave your answer in the comments. And if this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on how you treat the people around you, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories full of riddles and life lessons. Your journey of reflection and discovery is just beginning. Thank you for staying until the end. Thank you for being part of this community. And always remember, dignity cannot be bought, it must be lived.